Minister, welcome. Good to have you at Africa Tech Festival. An awful lot of food for thought in there. I'd love to start, though, with a conversation or a comment that you made around accessibility. Every year at Africa Tech, we hear the accessibility conversation, but you say that we need to move it forward into affordability.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
When you look at the economic demographic of Africa, a lot of the areas that are unserved and underserved are in our rural areas and in our lower income bracket areas. Okay, so if I were to use South Africa, for example, and Joburg, for example, the areas where you'll have challenges with connectivity are not in Sandton. They're going to be on the outskirts of Soweto, 40, 50 kilometers away from the center of the city. Now, what's the spending power of the people in those parts of the city and in Sandton? Completely different. It's the same thing in Ghana. If I was to look at the spending power of people in Accra and in a village up north, in the northern part on my border with Burkina Faso, spending power is different. So if you're talking about access and you're moving access into those underserved areas with the economic matrices and price points of the urban areas, you've lost the plot. Because yes, you will connect those communities, but the people there cannot just use the service, because it's a decision of putting a meal on the table for he, his wife, and his 5 kids as against buying a data bundle. The survival of his family is paramount. So what we need to do is drop the price point, make access as affordable that it no longer becomes an either or, but becomes a complementary. It becomes a part of their daily expenditure because it's tailored such that it is affordable access for them. And that's where we really need to look at it. What are the matrices? There are various models to use. Do you offset the price in the urban areas against the rural areas so that you have an asymmetric pricing arrangement such that persons in those areas, those cell sites, bill at lower than in the urban areas? Because again, a farmer who's trying to get access to a commodity exchange using a smartphone, the cost of his data should not be the same as someone who's trying to post a Snapchat or TikTok video. The use of the internet is different. So we need to look at that and see how we price properly and make sure that the access is affordable.
And you mentioned farmers and AI. Talk to us about how farmers and the informal sector can benefit from AI and what you're doing in Ghana.
So in Ghana, what we're doing now is we're looking at being able to develop our own large language models in our farming languages, because there are quite a number of fantastic AI solutions out there where a farmer who's a cocoa farmer in Ghana whose crop is challenged and does not have readily an agric extension officer in there, with the power of a smartphone, could actually scan the leaves of the plant or the pod, and he'll be told what the challenge is. But the reality is that app is in English. My farmer doesn't speak English. He speaks Nzima, which is a local language in the western part of Ghana. So how do I build a large language model interface in Nzima that allows him to use that same application, but get spoken to? Again, because one of the things is many of our people may speak the language, but they can't read and write the language. So it shouldn't just be text, because if you ask him to type in Nzima, he may not be able to type it. But if you were to just speak to the app using voice-activated instructions, and the app is able to then process using the LLM and then respond to him, use it after processing on whatever app AI solution, gives him the solution as a voice prompt. I have put the power of artificial intelligence in the hands of a non-English speaking farmer. We have farmers who are producing and just they're losing all of their profit to middlemen who are buying the crop for cheap and selling on the commodity exchanges. How do I move my commodity exchanges onto the app in a language that my farmer can explain and sell his bag of maize directly to the buffer stock company without going through a middleman, so he gets full value for his grain that he's produced? Those are the things we're doing. How do I use satellite imagery to be able to extend agricultural extension services, to be able to do soil testing using low Earth orbit satellites for my farmers? And for us in Ghana, we're saying that, look, we're building these solutions for the whole of Africa, because what affects a cocoa farmer in Accra is the same, or in Ghana is the same thing that affects a cocoa farmer in neighboring Ivory Coast, or a maize farmer in Ghana is a maize farmer in Nigeria. So our solutions are Pan-African in nature. So my universities in Ghana now are working not just on Ghanaian languages, but we're working on Swahili, we're working on Creole. We're building the solutions and saying, look, it's open source, we're building for Africa. Just come take it, because Africa's growth is collective. You know, it's just like the South African, the Swahili Ubuntu. I mean, you are because I am. So if Ghana is able to achieve food security, but our next door African neighbor is not able to achieve food security, and we have the tools that have helped us to achieve food security, and we didn't share it, then where's our Africanness? Because again, I go back to the founding father of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, where he said that the liberation of Ghana is meaningless unless it was linked up to the total liberation of the African continent. And so Ghana's AI march is meaningless if we don't link it up to the total emancipation of the African continent when it comes to artificial intelligence.
It's wonderful to have you here at Africa Tech Festival, Minister. Thanks very much indeed for your time. Thank you.